Hi, I'm L.A.Steel, and I'm here with Lila, and we're here at the George Vincent home in Salisbury, and George is taking us for a tour through his home. It's an all-solar and home here in Salisbury, and part of the PACE tour, which is, Lila, explain what PACE is.
PACE is an organization that supports clean energy. It's People's Action for Clean Energy. George and Bunny Vincent, who have graciously opened their home, is the first stop on the tour. Then we'll be going to Canaan to visit Freund's farm to show how an energy-efficient farm is run, and hopefully we'll get a chance to look at an energy-efficient car. I believe the car is built by Toyota. And perhaps
Toyota
somebody,
Prius, yeah. And,
perhaps someone can explain a little bit about it to us.
We may be able to take a ride in that, or at least Lila may, because I don't think I'll be able to fit in it. But at the same time, we hope you continue to watch the show through this series, and will be a two-part show, and I hope you learned something.
I'm here with George and Bunny Vincent, who've so graciously allowed us into their home and on their lovely deck at their solar home. George, tell us when this house was built.
This house was begun in the summer of 1983, and we moved into it in February of 1984.
And what made the two of you decide to go solar? That was quite an adventure then.
Well, we'll start with the reason for building the house in the first place. Bunny had an aneurysm in 1975, and we lived in a house down on Route 112 on the way down into Lime Rock, which you probably have passed many times. That is a three-story house with a lot of steps up to it on the outside, and it became harder and harder for Bunny to get in and out of there. So we started looking to buy a house in town, and we never found any place that suited us particularly, so we thought about building.
I do understand why you wanted to go one floor. It was a very practical thing, but what made you decide on solar?
Well, I'd always been interested in it. What about you, Bunny?
Yeah, I had too. I mean, it was a mutual thing. If we're going to build, why don't we try solar?
The most energy efficient that you could be.
The most energy efficient, indeed. Yeah.
And at the time, the United States government, in its wisdom, was giving tax relief to people who put in solar installations, and that was, we knew, going to lapse because Mr. Reagan had come into the White House, and so it was not going to last more than another 2 years. So we were fortunate enough to install ours in time to take several $1,000s in tax write-off for doing it. But that wasn't the main.
But it was a timely thing, and you didn't turn it back. It was. It sounds like it was a very good. Are you, Bunny?
Yes.
Are you happy with this as a?
Yes. Yes. We have the backup furnace for the days that we have no sun, but we don't have to do anything about it. It just automatically cuts in and cuts out again. So it's very easy, and I like the idea. The sun is there. The sun is beating down very brightly. And it's heating our house.
It's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
It is.
And I understand it heats your pool too.
Yes, but we don't use it very often heating the pool. I mean, we don't get the pool activated until the end of May, the beginning of June, and by that time, the sun heats it. We don't need to have extra heat.
Thank you, Bunny.
You're welcome.
For talking with me. George and Leo are going to go down into the basement, and what are we going to see down there, George?
Well, if you look hard, you'll see just about everything that has to do with the distribution of the heat that is brought down from the big solar panel on the roof to the 2,000-gallon panel that's down in the cellar, and taken out of there by 3 takeoff coils that do the 3 functions of the solar system. So I think we better move down there and take a look, okay?
Let's go.
All right. Here on the kitchen wall is a monitor that tells how much, what the heat is of the 2,000 gallons in the tank down under it. At the moment it's reading 158 degrees. And then if you're interested in the heat on the roof, it's only up to 139 so far because the sun hasn't gotten to it. And what happens is that when it does get up to more than the heat in the tank, there's an automatic sensor downstairs that turns on the circulating pump that sends the water up to the roof and brings more heat down. When the sun goes down, or when there is the roof cannot provide any more heat to the tank than is already there, then that sensor will turn the pump off and the water on the roof will drift back down into the tank so that there's never any use to have antifreeze in that system because the water never sits up there. These other two buttons would be in case you had more tanks. They're auxiliary buttons, but we happen to have only one large tank, so these are not active. The house is heated radiantly from the floor in 4 zones. We have 4 zones the length of the house, and this is the house as it was being built, and what you're looking at is the subfloor with more neoprene tubing laid on it, strung out or in various patterns, and that's what carries the hot water from the big 2,000 gallon holding tank through the house and gives us our area heat. After this, these tubes were laid down on the subfloor, then the contractor put down gypcrete on top of the tubing, and that had to be done very carefully at different thicknesses because we have various types of flooring in the house. We have this wooden floor here, we have a bit of flagstone in front of the front door, we have just plain old linoleum in the kitchen and the bathrooms and so forth. So that is how the heat, this is the end result actually of the system, is this distribution under the floor.
I'm here with George down in his basement, and George is pointing over here to temperature control for this tank.
It's a relay, and it's attached to the sensor on the roof, which tells it when the sun is out and when there's more heat to be available to be pumped down into the big tank here. And the principal circulating pump is not a very large device.
It's about this small, and it's attached to that, but it's rather difficult to show it. But we'll. But now that generates, that circulates through here and
that's right.
puts the water in this huge tank.
That's right. This is one of the pipes, and this is the other here coming back out again. So there are 2 that you can't quite see how it is, but there are 2 that go up and back to the roof. And this is simply if the big tank needs a little topping off, this is the place to do that.
Okay. Well, that's great. Now we're going to go around there and take a look at this huge tank. Is this the direction we're going here, George? Or
well, this is the beginning where the hot water comes in, and we'll go to the other end to see how it's dispersed. Okay?
And this is all heated by that large solar panels.
That's
those solar panels up on top of the roof.
That's right.
Okay. And over here, George, now this is the tank, the huge tank. Now, explain a little bit about this.
Well, as you saw from the monitor upstairs, there is 158 or so degrees of heat in this 2,000 gallons of water that's in here. But I had you both walk up and feel the outside of the tank, and you can see how well insulated it is. So that people say, what's all that? Where does all that heat go in the summertime? Well, it just stays in there. Okay.
So, what type of insulation?
I
is it?
don't ask me that. I
You're not
don't.
sure
I
of that?
never went that far. Okay.
Okay, but there is absolutely no heat coming from this.
That's
so-
right.
And the water in here is what, 160?
160 approximately degrees. It can get as high as 172,
Really?
and then it automatically shuts off.
Now,
Okay.
during the summer months, is there a difference in it in the summer and winter months? Or in the winter, how does it maintain that temperature? Or?
Of course, in this latitude, you cannot have your solar system provide all your heat.
All of your heat. Right?
No. Right now, I don't think we have used any oil, knock wood, since maybe May, because we've had a very warm season, and we have had, it's been a relatively clear season, so that we've built up the heat in the tank and maintained it.
Now, you've got approximately 2,200 square feet in this house. So, what is the approximate savings from this particular?
Well, that's a bit hard to say. I tried to get Frank Perotti to research with Lindell Oil just what our use was, but when he first put it in, when he first put the distribution system in, which came out of his head, incidentally.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, he designed this?
Yeah, he designed and I've been after him for 17 years to give me a schematic, but he won't do it.
He still doesn't have one down. He just came up with it, right?
But anyway, when he first put it in, he said that this system ought to provide us with, on a year-round basis, with 2/3 of our heating needs. So,
Now, this is who is this gentleman?
well, this is a plumbing firm, an old-line plumbing firm in Canaan called William Perotti and Sons, and Frank is one of the brothers that runs it. And we'll move around to, you can see some of the many more pumps that we have to get the heat to where it belongs. Okay.
We'll move right over.
Okay, this is the beginning of the distribution system here. This pair of pipes is the most important. Inside the tank, incidentally, attached to these 3 sets of pipes are a great mass of coils of pipe that are actually the takeoff coils that transfer the heat from here to wherever we want it. So this first pair of pipes is the area heat for the house, and it carries it over here to a number of circulating pumps behind me, which you will see when we move the camera, and onto the floors of the house, which we saw upstairs. The middle pair of pipes is for our domestic hot water, and there is a tank behind the camera here, regular domestic hot water tank. And
so this feeds directly into the
hot water. That's
system.
right.
Okay.
And the third is the heat for the pool if and when we want to use it. The control for
This particular one right here.
that pair of pipes right there. Yes.
That goes to the pool.
Yes, and the way that is controlled is to go out by the pool filter and its motor and turn a couple of valves out there, sending the water that normally goes through the pool filter down through here, and you can feel the minute you turn those, you can feel the heat coming out of the
right out of the water.
the
right into
eyeballs
water,
in the
right?
pool.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So that is the beginning of the distribution system, and we'll move over here
Maybe you can turn
to
it
the
around
rest
and
of it.
see
Okay, I'll turn around.
Show us the
Ray, here, the 8 relays on the wall, and there are 4 pumps that are greenish here, and there are 4 more that you can't really see up under the ceiling here. There are also these 2 large boxes, this one and the one back there, and those are the brains of the system. One senses when there is enough heat in the tank to do the job, and the other one senses when there isn't, and that brings on the oil burner. But anyway, the 4 zones that I described up in the living room are the 4 pumps that are on high here. And they are controlled by the first 4 boxes, blue boxes on the wall over there that are relays.
George, I'm curious. Most of now you built this house in '84. Now, have you made any major updates in your electrical or your plumbing since '84 to accommodate the
basically it's just the same as it was.
And the maintenance has been normal?
Well, there's very little maintenance to this. Every once in a while, a pump will blow its seal and we'll get water on the floor, okay?
Right, normal, yeah.
But basically, it's a very passive, active system.
Yeah, George, you have, because of the size of your house, and you stated that because your living quarters are further away, now you have explain to us what you've done to help you out here. Down
well, this is the holding tank for the hot water, which has enough hot water to serve 2 bathrooms and a powder room, even when we have the house full of people. But the architecture of the house is long and narrow. It was conceived that way. And our end, our Bunny's and my living end, our bathroom and the laundry are both some distance from this tank, which means that we would have to run water for a minute or two to bring the hot water that far. So down in the crawl space under that east end of the house, there is an electric resistance booster heater for that end. And that's anathema to a lot of energy people, because that's a no-no. But it saves us from having to, when we first turn on the shower, stand under a cold shower until the hot comes. And basically, we're bathing and washing our clothes in this water. That's just a booster that's
just
over
a major
there.
Convenience for you. Yeah.
That's right.
Well, George, I want to thank you very, very much for being with us.
My pleasure.
And it's been a real pleasure and an informative visit. And hopefully some of our viewers will be a little bit more knowledgeable because of this, and possibly construct in a solar fashion.
If I could stick in one more
Sure.
Remark. If people are really interested in going solar, then they have to lean on their friendly local politicians to pass more supportive legislation for all clean energy. Okay.
I agree with you fully on that, George, and we're going to try to do that. So all of you out there, please contact your Congress people and even the President. We're going to have numbers for you at the end of this show, and the PACE organization, so that you can possibly get in touch with them as well. And we want to thank you very much for watching, and follow us on now to our next energy efficient model, and in Canaan, Connecticut. Thank you very much, George.
Sure thing.
Hi, I'm here with Judy Freeman, chairperson of PACE, People's Action for Clean Energy. And how long have you been involved with PACE, Judy?
Since 1974.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And what does your organization stand for and try to build?
Our organization is an environmental energy organization, although we consider it a public health organization. We're very concerned about the health of the general public. It's a state organization, and we have a threefold goal. The first part is to encourage Connecticut people to use energy wisely, conserve, and use energy efficiency. The second goal is to use renewable energy wherever possible, because we're running out of fossil fuels, and we're deeply concerned about global warming, especially this summer. Mm-hmm. And we are very, 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 very terrorized, distraught, upset about nuclear energy, and have been for many, many years. So our final goal is to challenge Connecticut's commitment to nuclear energy and to nuclear weapons.
Those are wonderful goals to have, and I know today you're sponsoring a tour. Is this an annual event?
We hold tours periodically throughout the year all across the state, and we invite people who have solar homes to contact us, or who use wind or small hydro, methane from landfills, all kinds of clean energy. And we reach people through education, as we're an educational organization, through exhibits, through conferences, through many phone calls, through tours. As I said, in towns all over the state. We've been doing that for 23 years. We speak to schools sometimes. We distribute literature. We have a website.
Oh, can you tell us what your website is right now?
Yes, www.pace-cleanenergy.org.
Just so the viewers know, if you're interested and didn't catch that, we'll have that at the end of the show on the credits. So if they go to your website, if an interested person does, they'll be able to find out when you have a tour, or when there's someone speaking, or will people be able to get literature from you?
They can order literature, they can become members, they can become members and get on our regular mailing list. They can find out all sorts of things about nuclear energy, about potassium iodide, which is a very interesting antidote to thyroid cancer in case we have a nuclear accident. They can find out about solar homes, past solar events, future solar events, lots and lots of and we have nice links to organizations across the state.
Well, it sounds like you do a lot of really worthwhile work, and I want to thank you for taking a few minutes to talk with us today. I know you've been very busy.
Thank you so much. Thanks for giving us the opportunity.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm here with Ginny Judson. She's with a Connecticut Energy Co-op, and could you tell me exactly what that is?
Well, the co-op was one of the first independent energy suppliers to be licensed by the Department of Public Utility Control. We are a co-op, and so if you join us, you own us. We serve you. We buy what you want us to buy, and we have a board of directors that's from all over the state. I really have enjoyed working with the board, we are we're an energy company. We don't offer just electricity, but we do have 2 electric products. I think we're the only supplier that's offering you 2 flavors. One with the Green E certified product.
And tell us a little bit about what you mean by Green E certified.
Well, we'll start with that, and I'll turn around so you can get the message.
Choose Green E certified renewable electricity. www.green-e.org. 18863 Green. Okay, very nice. A great looking t-shirt, but with a very good message.
Well, it's something of a generic message for Green E, which is a fine organization based in California, part of the Center for Renewable Solutions, I believe it's called. But the co-op, as I say, was one of the first. I think we were the first offered the first Green E certified product in the Northeast.
Well, let me just stop you a minute. What does Green E certified mean?
Well, it's going to mean slightly different things in slightly different parts of the country. If you go to this website, you could go to any state in the union and go to pick your power. And you'll see what's available, if anything, in your state.
How about Connecticut? Right here in Connecticut.
There are now 2 Green E certified companies. Obviously, I am affiliated with one of them, so perhaps just a little bit biased. But our Green E, I'll start with that. The Green E designation is something like a consumer's blessing, or to tell you, you can count on this product being derived from 50% at least from renewable energy sources such as wind, hydro, solar, photovoltaics, and so forth. And it's
so energy that is safe for the environment.
Yes, safe for the environment.
So you have all kinds of people from all walks of life and in business. And
the Series C members are from organization such as PACE, and as I say, they get a discount if they care to join.
Okay.
So thank you for the opportunity to talk with you.
And you're welcome, Ginny, and
Well,
good
thank
luck.
you. Thank you very much.
We're here with Lou Friedman, who's consented to talk with us about his car, a very energy-efficient car. Lou, tell us a little bit about your Toyota.
Well, it's a wonderful technology that all of us should be using. It's a hybrid car.
And when you say hybrid, what do you mean by that?
It has two fuel sources. One is gasoline, one's electricity. And the electricity comes from the battery, and the battery is charged by braking the car, even running the car, but most especially
By the wheels?
by the wheels, when you brake. And this car gets better mileage in the city than it does on the highway, which Toyota did on purpose,
Oh,
because most of the world drives in the city.
well, that is true. I never really thought about that.
It's only America, you know, with our big highway system.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So when you're idling in traffic and stopping and going, that's why the braking system adds to the,
When you idle, when you're at a red light,
right?
the car shuts down. It doesn't turn
Oh.
off,
Shuts
but
down.
it goes dormant. You don't hear a thing. It's silent. So you're using no gas.
Wow. And that must be quite something to get used to, because
is,
we're
and-
used to that idling sound when...
Right. It's very quiet. It's very silent. So when you come into a parking area and there are people, you have to be careful. They don't know you're there.
Oh.
I don't have to be careful, but they have to be careful of me.
They have to be
Right.
careful of you.
Right, right.
How is it to ride in? Everything else
It's
is the
lovely.
same as a typical car?
It's really a very typical car, except for the technology that runs the car. And that's what's so different and so exciting and so wonderful.
And how long have you owned this car?
January.
January. Well,
No, April.
April, okay.
Sorry, April.
So Lou and his family have been enjoying this energy-efficient car, and come with us while we take a ride in it. We're here with Lou Friedman, who's consented to talk with us about his car, a very energy-efficient car. Lou, tell us a little bit about your Toyota.
Well, it's a wonderful technology that all of us should be using. It's a hybrid car.
And when you say hybrid, what do you mean by that?
It has two fuel sources. One is gasoline, one's electricity. And the electricity comes from the battery, and the battery is charged by braking the car, even running the car, but most especially
By the wheels?
by the wheels, when you brake. And this car gets better mileage in the city than it does on the highway, which Toyota did on purpose,
Oh,
because most of the world drives in the city.
well, that is true. I never really thought about that.
It's only America, you know, with our big highway system.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So when you're idling in traffic and stopping and going, that's why the braking system adds to the,
When you idle, when you're at a red light,
right?
the car shuts down. It doesn't turn
Oh.
off,
Shuts
but
down.
it goes dormant. You don't hear a thing. It's silent. So you're using no gas.
Wow. And that must be quite something to get used to, because
is,
we're
and-
used to that idling sound when...
Right. It's very quiet. It's very silent. So when you come into a parking area and there are people, you have to be careful. They don't know you're there.
Oh.
I don't have to be careful, but they have to be careful of me.
They have to be careful of you.
Right, right.
How is it to ride in? Everything else
It's
is the
lovely.
same as a typical car?
It's really a very typical car, except for the technology that runs the car. And that's what's so different and so exciting and so wonderful.
And how long have you owned this car?
January.
January. Well,
No, April.
April, okay.
Sorry, April.
So Louis and his family have been enjoying this energy efficient car, and come with us while we take a ride in it.
We're going to go in and talk to Judy, because it may be a little too late. The tour here is over at 2:15.
Who's waiting to go in the Prius? Okay.
You guys ready?
We have a film crew. Okay, then probably after the first tour. The first tour is at 3, and then at that he'll give you a ride after that.
Okay, the engine is running, even though you can hear nothing, because we're still, and the engine is dormant. You can see in the monitor what's happening technologically with the car. Right now, it's dormant, so you see nothing. When we start, you'll see arrows, and the arrows will, if you see the wheel on the left of the monitor, that'll show you what's driving the car. If you see the battery on the right of the monitor, you'll see when the battery's being charged. And it's a regenerative battery recharging system. So the more you brake, the more you're charging the battery. That's why this car gets better mileage in city driving than it does highway driving, which is what Toyota designed it to do. So
Very
you ready?
clever. Yeah, I'm ready.
You ready? Now I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to put my foot on the brake, and I'm going to put it in drive. It's a normal gear shift, and we're going to start, but you won't hear anything yet. The engine is you can see by the monitor, the electricity is
It's going off
driving,
the battery.
going off the battery and driving the car.
Wow.
And it's so silent.
It is. It's really eerie almost.
And right now we're charging.
Because the wheels are turning.
No,
and-
because we're going uphill. Now we're going uphill. I'm using gasoline to get up the hill.
Oh, I see.
And now that's over, and I'm back to electricity, and electricity is driving the car, and we're about to be hit by this car. Okay, now out on the big highway, and plenty of pep, plenty of energy,
Oh, yeah.
just like a normal car.
Maybe even more so.
Maybe more so. And you can see we're using gas again and electricity.
So the combination.
Combination, the gas will stop once I got up the hill.
Yeah.
Now I'm just using electricity for fuel. Now I'm charging, this is going constant. The most dangerous part of this car is that monitor, because you keep watching it and you keep wanting to see, what am I doing, and am I driving as efficiently as possible? I've
So
got
are
it in the book.
these cars are available anywhere in the U.S.?
No, unfortunately, they're not. There are 600 Toyota dealers in the United States, and 300 of them are licensed to sell and service this car. So they're only available at 300 of the dealerships.
So certain
one-
designated sites.
Yeah, but
Okay.
there's a worse problem than that, and that's availability. Toyota is only allowed to export to the United States 13,000 of these cars a year by trade agreement with our government. On top of that, they're not allowed to advertise this car.
Why is that, Lou? Why is that?
Well, I'm not a member of the U.S. government, nor do I work for Toyota, but I will tell you why I think that is, and I have this on good authority.
Okay.
And that is that the oil lobby, which is the largest lobby in the United States, as I'm sure you know,
Right.
does not want this technology to enter the United States market because it would devastate the oil industry as far as, automobile fuel.
Right.
So it's to their interest.
Instead, they would rather open up the Arctic Game Reserve.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, look at, they could
clowns.
they could get 3 miles per gallon better gas mileage on all the SUVs in the United States with absolutely no problem whatsoever, and they're not even doing that. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
So anyhow,
Do you think
there's
that
a
other
4 to 6 month wait
4 to 6
to
month
get
wait?
these cars from one of the 300 dealers in the United States.
Now, where do you?
Not
where
because
do you,
Toyota doesn't
Where were you?
make more.
Where did you get this, and where do you get it serviced?
At Hoffman Toyota in Avon, Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
And we had an absolutely wonderful, wonderful experience with them in ordering the car, and they're explaining why I had to wait, and getting the car, and teaching us about the car, and taking us to the service department. They're just delightful people. They love this car. Toyota expects that within 8 years, all Toyotas will be driven with this technology.
Wow.
And that's why Toyota is willing to subsidize, as they did this car. Toyota spent $33,000 making this car, and it cost me $22,000 before the tax rebate. And they're willing to make that subsidy because the more cars they get in the United States, the better it is.
Wow.
And obviously around the world and in Asia, they don't have those restrictions.
So do you feel that, or do you believe that other countries are more committed to conserving than we are right now?
I haven't been to all countries in the world, but I've been to a lot of them. And I have been to no country that is more of an energy glutton and less conservation minded than the United States. I love this country, but I don't love everything about it. And one of the things that really disturbs me about this country is the lack of understanding in this country. We're 6% of the population. We use 25% of the world's non-renewable resources every year, and that's sinful.
Well, maybe a program like today will encourage other people to think about an energy-efficient car or an energy-efficient house, or at least signing up for an energy co-op if they can't do either of the others.
Well, Lila, I hope you're right. That's why we do it.
Well, I think you do good work,
Thank you.
I thank you for giving us what was a very informative, comfortable ride.
Good. Well, I never even turned the air conditioning on for you. Thank you for coming, and thank you for doing it. And thank you for making the film.
Thank you. We're here with Teresa Freund from Freund's Farm, the last stop on our tour today. Teresa and her husband and family have opened their farm to the public to show what they've been doing here. I know a little bit about Teresa because I do know her outside of the farm. And Teresa, tell us a little bit first about yourself. I know you have a little shop here where you do plenty of business, and then talk a little bit about the farm and about PACE, the People's Action for Clean Energy.
Okay. It's funny when you talk about myself, I always think, oh wow, okay, I'm this kid that grew up in Canaan, and I haven't gone very far. But actually I moved 3 miles out of town and into farm country. My mother always says it smells a little different out here. But I think it's because there's more cows out here than people. The way I even got started into my market, Freund's Farm Market, is that I needed something safe for me to do with my children, and milking cows was not that. So I actually married into the dairy farm, and my husband's a second-generation dairy farmer. So Matthew's father, who came out of New York City, the Bronx actually, and was a student at Cornell, this was his summer job. So in reality, this was my summer job too, was milking cows. So now, but here it is 19 years later, and I've created Freund's Farm Market and Bakery, and I created what I call an oasis, just something a little different. There's not too many greenhouse, garden center, bakery, food. We grow a little bit of everything, and so when it comes down to the energy side of our business, we found that our greenhouses the traditional greenhouse that we had here demanded a lot of electricity. We were spending an additional $200 to $300 a month to cool a greenhouse.
Wow.
So we had the opportunity to, we needed to expand, we needed to build a bigger greenhouse. So then we started to look at what was available and realized that we could create an energy efficient natural air ventilation greenhouse with interior shade cloth. So this shade cloth acts not only as a barrier to the sun, but it also acts as a reflective. It reflects the sun, but it also holds in the heat. So in the wintertime, once there's no sun, we close off the cloth because you don't need the light because it's dark, and it keeps the heat in the bottom. We also put in radiant floor heat, and so that actually saves energy in the fact that it's a much slower heat. So once the boiler stops making the heat, the concrete holds the heat
And
longer.
how is that powered?
That actually is powered with fuel oil right now. The reason we actually put in radiant floor heat is that down the line, once we perfect the methane digester, and we are able to heat the water with the manure gas, which basically the manure gas heats water. The water is then run through
Circulated
radiators. It's circulated throughout the farm and through our house. Of course, my children are not so proud of that. It's like, oh, we have a house heated by manure. But it's actually the hot water from the manure that comes through our radiator system. But the down the line, once we get that all under control, we can actually pipe the hot water into our greenhouse radiant floor heat,
Which you're all ready for.
which is already here. So right now, it's our greenhouse is a closed system, but we've already seen a significant thousands of dollars savings over last year. We're actually heating a greenhouse that's 60 by 120 feet, and the other greenhouse was 30 by 120. But it was a regular double poly plastic house. But here we've got controls that control the opening and closing of sidewall vents, roof vents, and we actually have a weather station that actually registers if moisture starts to come down, the rain, it shuts the system down, closes up our greenhouse walls.
Wonderful. So are you the first one in this area to use this technology?
What's interesting is that our building inspector, he didn't know what to do with us because he'd never seen anything like this. He goes, well, this is all new to me, and we are actually classified as storage because he has no, in the zoning laws or rules, there are no description of how to describe a greenhouse. So,
So you're really a pioneer and a new frontier.
Yes, exactly.
Excellent.
But Matthew's father, when he put in the milking parlor in 1966, it was the first double herringbone parlor. So the Freunds have always been doing things a little before their time, or, you know, it's nobody else has done it, and they're all looking at us like we're a little crazy. But it's a little bit like our nutrient-rich pot that my husband's been really working on.
Tell viewers a little bit about that. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that either.
Well, what it is that when you look at things that growers use to grow plants in, your options are plastic. And plastic is a major dump contributor to the dumps, and so is the black plastic mulch that you put into our fields to grow plants. So we have this renewable resource, which is our byproduct of our cows, which is the manure. So the manure, which then goes through the digester. So manure is what creates the methane. So the manure then is heated, produces the little microbes that are in manure, produces a gas called methane. Then the methane is used is then going through a boiler, which is
heating your water?
Is heating our water.
Which heats your house?
Which heats our house, which also heats the manure, and around it goes. So then we have this manure that's been cooking for 20 days. It takes 20 days to go through the digester. Then we squeeze out the liquid. So the liquid then goes back onto our property with a irrigation system. So,
and that's actually fertilizer?
Yes.
So that's fertilizing.
And that's an important, I mean, it's just as important to put the fertilizer back on the ground.
Absolutely.
As it, I mean, it is a waste product, but it is also a nutrient product. And without the nutrients back in the soil, we would not be able to grow our
We'd have
plants.
erosion and soil that wouldn't produce good plants.
You need a high organic matter in order to have rich soils. So then the dry portion of this manure digester is then composted, and a lot of the landscapers will use it because there's no rocks, no weeds, there's it's like wow stuff. It's like
Now, is that also rich in nutrients?
yes.
The dry portion.
So there's different nutrients that go with each portion. The liquid tends to be higher in the nitrogen, lower in the phosphorus and the potassium, and so each part has its high points.
Okay.
But they're both excellent, additions to the soil. But anyway, so this manure can then be created into products. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, is to create a nutrient-rich pot, or, like a peat pot.
Right.
So Mr. Emery and Mr. Jiffy actually was the ones who created the peat pots in Canada. And so Mr. Emery has been working with us on creating a poop pot. So, and that's the simplest, and of course, peat pots and poop pots both make use of recycled newspaper, so there's paper pulp is in that pot as well. Because basically we want to be able to sell this product to commercial growers. So the typical homeowner uses a few Jiffy pots, but we're looking at somebody that uses 1 million pots. That's our goal, is to be able to sell millions and millions of these pots, because they're only worth 2 or 3 cents each. So, but what they're worth is the fact that the nutrients are already in the pot. And the preliminary tests that UConn has done, they found more growth in the sunflowers that they were growing.
Wow.
So they've actually...
A very useful product.
Yes.
Excellent. And
But, so that's just one aspect of trying to make use of all our byproducts and the energies that we create here. But, and then when you go into the whole dairy farm, which of course Matthew, my husband, can elaborate on more. I'm kind of a retired dairy farmer, so I only catch a few things here and there. But they've changed over a lot of their motors to what we call it's like a 2-phase motor. I am not the
expert on
that thing, but I know that in my greenhouse, even saving energy and the amount of water we use, if you look overhead, you see all the irrigation drip lines. So instead of hand watering where there's a lot of wasted water, each pot is connected to a drip line, and we have controls, so we can control exactly how much water goes to every pot. And we do that on the floor watering and overhead watering. So it's some very interesting stuff we do here.
everything's been very carefully thought out, and we certainly wish you the best of luck in your endeavors.
Thank you.
And you've done so much.
So I hope that you cross paths with Matthew, the expert on the manure, but...
We'll go and look for him. Maybe he's over in the barn.
Yeah, okay, well go visit the cows, because that's what everybody loves to come see.
Well, thank you, Teresa.
Oh, you're welcome.
Digester. This is a 20-day storage of manure. And the odor that you're getting off here is pretty much ammonia, so hydrogen sulfide is the other odor. And it's pretty odorific. It's not the most pleasant material to work with to try to reap energy, but this is what we have in abundance, so we're doing the best we can. Now there's been over about 325 digesters built in the United States. There's 31 of them that are actually running. This is one of them. This one here is now uncovered because my cover deteriorated.
Is that what all that is?
This is the digester with these arches?
Yep. This is totally experimental. This is an experimenting process. This will be my 3rd cover on this digester in 4 years. The first cover was a material called XR5, which is designed for digesters. It's a liquid seal, which means I had to get down in the manure to make the seal on the digester to attach it to the concrete wall.
So you didn't come home that night?
Well, it wasn't a pleasant task. Putting it on was fairly simple. Taking it back off when it deteriorated was. So I was up to here in manure. It was not a fun sight, and it was a pretty stressful situation. So when I finally got it off, I got an excavator in, I pulled it all off, took out the insulation package, and I said, I'm not going to do this again. So then I went into my own experimental cover, which was this, which is a greenhouse. This is an aluminum rib, which does not deteriorate from the hydrogen sulfide. And I put on a poly cover just like a normal greenhouse. You can see what happened to my poly cover. It's all in the it all crinkled up. What happened is that it's a low-density recycled poly that I used. Unbeknownst to me, I tried to get as much information as I could, but there is nobody out in anywhere that will give you guarantees on digesters. They don't know what the stuff does to their materials. There's not enough money in it for them to do the experiment, so we have to do the experiment. That's why there's government funds available for this type of thing, to try to find new energy sources, and using the right equipment takes a lot of money. So the third cover is going to be a high-density virgin poly material. It's going to be a woven material, and it's going to be a 2-layer. I've got a company, Ravon, that thinks their material will do the trick, and that's going to go on this week. What you see here is the top mat. There's a bunch of hay in it. It's 7.5 feet deep. This is a U-shaped digester. You can see the outlines of the wall behind me. The last of it is at this second post. The material is pushed in and it oozes into the digester. As the feed oozes in, it expels the same amount into my effluent chamber. So we have an influent chamber and an effluent chamber. It's shaped in a U fashion so I can reclaim the heat on the center wall from the effluent chamber. I'm trying to get as efficient as I can. And what we built here is basically 200 cows, 20 days worth rooming. A cow is a ruminant. So this is a big rumen. I keep it at the body temperature of a cow, and I keep all these little bugs as happy as they can be, so they'll produce methane gas. All right, so it's 100 degrees in there at the surface. And then, of course, the gas cools off, and I suck the gas through that green pipe, and that goes up to the furnace room where I burn it in a normal commercial boiler, and I use that hot water. I can pipe the hot water anywhere as I want. All right?
That's only when you have the cover on, right?
That's only when I have the cover. I need to run my flare or my burner 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That never shuts off. Okay. And I run my circulating pumps 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if something happens at midnight, somebody has to come out and fix it. Okay. So the system is not it's not really a homeowner system. The reason there's so few in use is that they're a real pain in the butt. They take a tremendous amount of effort to keep running. It's not a clean place to be. You know, the odor is strong. You're working in the stuff. You have to have a certain mentality to be able to run this kind of a system. You really have to have an interest. My mother was an old Connecticut Yankee, and she instilled in us that we should conserve energy and we should look for alternative sources, and that's what we're doing.
Excuse me, what is this pond here? Is that just a...
All right, so just to get back to reality on this thing, the reason that we built this digester was to process manure. What we wanted to do was to be able to separate solids from liquids. Cow manure is full of fiber. We want to take the fiber out, and the liquid fraction of that goes into this 800,000 gallon lagoon. It's a lined lagoon that was put together. It's about 35 grand to put that lined lagoon together. So we needed to be able to process that during the winter months when the cows were home from pasture, because that's when our volume is being produced and collected. So to do that, it has to be unfrozen. Our barns are cold barns, so we put it into this digester, we unfreeze it with the gas produced by heating. We collect the gas, heat the manure, keep the system rolling. As it goes out to the effluent chamber, we pump it up to a screw press to take the solids from the liquids go to here. From here, I set up a tractor and a pump, and I pump it under the brook 4 times and under the road once, out to my cornfields, where I have another tractor sitting with a hose, a drag hose, and I inject it into the ground. I can empty this pit in 3 days.
So that actually fertilizes your...
That is fertilizer. That's valuable to me.
Wow, yeah.
That saves me about $5 a ton.
What is lining that pond? Is
that's actually recycled plastic. That's a 60 mil liner, And there's a fabric that goes down first, then the liner. And that's all on gravel. And I have drainage ditches underneath so I can test the water. If I have any problems, I'll know about it. I can't drive in that ever again, but I can suck out of it.
How deep is it?
That runs about 10 feet deep.
Definitely don't want to go swimming.
No, you can swim in it. It's actually like an aphrodisiac when you get it all over.
Well, it's been an incredible day, Lila, and this is an appropriate way to end. Behind us we have cows.
The major contributor to energy at Freund's Farm.
And for the last half hour, air pollution. However, we're glad to see that methane is being produced by these animals and by their byproduct, and we learned a lot, and we hope that that you have as well. There will be a number of telephone numbers and websites coming up at the end of the show in the credits. And Lila, you've been a great sport, and you've been tremendous today. And see, we talked to old George Vincent and his wife Bunny, and the remarkable people here at the Freund Farm, and the Friedmans, and we saw an energy efficient car. I mean, we've just seen a lot of things, and we hope that you appreciate these groups, and that you learn from them, and know that they're here for you, and they're here for all of us. And I'll leave you with that message, and good night, and thank you, Lila.
You're welcome. Good night.
Good night.